evening live stream like I've done the past couple weeks for fun. I enjoy doing our live streams in between our main content, and while I did intend to put out some main content on this channel, meaning like shorts or bonus videos this week, I got distracted by a big project, which is my next main combo class episode on my combo class channel. Someone's saying there's not audio or something or movement. Hopefully the audio is moving now that we are fully logged into our stream. Now, I did intend to put some bonus content on this channel this week, but the big project I've been working on my main combo class channel should come out this weekend. I only have a few more episodes left in grade -2, and as far as my main episodes, the only ones left are a long mathematical finale and then a long documentary-like finale. And the mathematical one should be out this weekend. I'm going to do the final filming and editing on it tomorrow, hopefully. And that episode contains some cool original proofs of mine, contains some fun, random, simple, but underrated number theory concepts, and also will be the longest edited project I have ever released. It's going to be, like, my live streams are longer length, but as far as an edited video episode I've put out, this will be the longest edited project I will have ever released. It will be almost definitely over an hour, unless it somehow gets cut a little lower. Should be a little over an hour, and it's going to be worth watching because it contains a lot of cool stuff. But today, or tonight rather, at the time we're at now, let's jump into what I wanted to talk about today, which was some hilarious laughter I was having to myself upon finding some really strange Wikipedia articles earlier and realizing I should really share this with my other combo lords. I think that learning various things is something that combo lords may have in general, whether or not they approach it from mostly wanting mathematics from me or liking all sorts of knowledge. And that encyclopedias are a good text to learn knowledge from. They are culminations of small chunks of knowledge of many different topics or subtopics put together. And so I actually think the website Wikipedia is underrated, which some people would think is strange. Like, isn't this a really popular website that sometimes people misquote? How could that be an underrated thing, that it's already popular and has certain criticisms against it? Well, I think that the criticisms against Wikipedia are kind of lame and don't fully hold water, because I think that most of those criticisms you could make for any non-vetted research source. Wikipedia has more citations than anything you'll find on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or TikTok, or typically even YouTube, apart from hopefully channels like mine. And they're on Wikipedia, although it's not perfect, and I find it to be better with mathematics than with other historical things occasionally, because historical things are more prone to a biased edit, not slipping past the meta editors who make sure everything on Wikipedia is cool. Whereas mathematics, it's much easier to calculate, okay, somebody wanted to add something to the article, but it was false, so we're going to remove it. Now, in general, I think that Wikipedia is better cited, but meaning having better citations than most sources you'll find online, and that most people criticizing Wikipedia aren't saying we should instead read a lot of books that are highly vetted research sources or science articles or such that are from, prolific vetted communities. Most people who criticize Wikipedia are getting their knowledge from sources that are less checked than Wikipedia. So I have a lot of respect for Wikipedia. It leads me to a lot of interesting knowledge. I don't use it as a final citation on a topic. If I want to look deep enough in a topic I learn from it, I will look for other sources, of course, whether it's through the citations on the website or ones they don't have listed. But in general, as a way to learn about interesting aspects of life, I find Wikipedia quite great. And I think one of my favorite parts of it are the lists on Wikipedia. We've made a live stream before here where I was chatting about the list of lists is an absolutely brilliant YouTube rabbit hole. Wikipedia rabbit hole that I briefly covered on a YouTube live stream that I will go deeper down someday. All the lists of lists and how far we can take this. But today I stumbled into a different sort of meta list on Wikipedia that I felt would have an amazing amount of interesting, we could call it knowledge, depending how, sure we need to be about our knowledge, or if we are writing papers about any of these things or wanting to be positive about the knowledge, we will call these tips in the right direction of interesting historical, philosophical, scientific things that will point us toward knowledge we might want to look up someday. Now, before I jump into the exact type of Wikipedia rabbit hole I fell down, let me note that many of the Wikipedia articles I enjoy I would consider weird or unusual or strange. And these are not necessarily an insult, although hilariously, not to get political, but during our U.S. Election cycle that happens to be occurring right now, the word weird has become a hilarious buzzword of sorts that seemingly triggers a lot of people, but the word weird should not be hugely triggering or bad, but it is allowed to point out, like, okay, this is a bit unusual. Now, what we're going to look at are unusual Wikipedia articles. Some of them are singular stories. Some of them are lists of other things that are singular stories of themselves or singular facts. And by going down this rabbit hole, we're just going to, first of all, learn some hilarious things about history, science, or etc. Second of all, we're going to see the potential of what a Wikipedia-like resource could do. Why do I like a resource like Wikipedia? Partially because you can find topics on there with a title that got a whole article along the lines of lawsuits against supernatural beings. Now, normally I'd be like, okay, has there even been one lawsuit against a supernatural being? That is kind of hilarious and interesting. And now we can see a whole culmination of different people compiling an encyclopedia, like Wikipedia is, of knowledge, which, hopefully the citations are correct on. We can see they do cite many sources on each of these. For example, these are the references on this page. That we can find the most hilariously titled articles. In addition to lawsuits against supernatural beings, there are some funny ones I've covered in my own past live streams before. For example, we've covered inventors killed by their own inventions and things like that are just a really good name for a list to exist. It's just like, okay, I'm glad this list exists. This is awesome. Let's look at it. Now, going forward, although there are a few articles that I handpicked before this stream that I thought I absolutely need to share, the main thing we're going to go through here is if you search Wikipedia for what the unusual articles are, it turns out they have this entire meta page of documenting what have been considered the unusual articles. Now, we're kind of 2 layers deep in human effect on the knowledge, because now we not only have pages that each were humanly affected based on what knowledge was important to include or not include, but now we also have this meta list of what humans thought of all of those pages were unusual. So, what would unusual mean? Well, it turns out it's a very unclear definition of what they mean on this page, but the articles seem freaking awesome. So we're going to have to just scroll through. This is a long page, or a long meta page, and we're not going to get through all this today. We're going to get through the top sections of this today, and if people find it funny enough, we will do a sequel. But even at the very top, about places and infrastructure, I can see that each of these articles has a unique, funny, weird description, and that I might want to click on more than a quarter of these. And so, going forward, why don't I begin with an example of how Wikipedia can be hilarious? That is going to be, let me do 2 or 3 little examples of articles that I picked before this stream started that I thought would be funny to show. And then we're going to go just scroll down unusual articles and see, based on, my own judgment or the judgment of those in chat, if you hit it at the right time. As my combo lords know, I kind of only check the chat once every half an hour and then spend like 5 or 10 minutes chatting with the chat. But leave a comment if you think that any articles we find are extra important in the future. But to begin with, I'm going to have to just show you what I think are examples of hilarious articles. Now, I already noted one that I pulled up. One that I pulled up was lawsuits against supernatural beings. And we're going to save that in a tab for a minute now. Now, another example of an article that I haven't even read yet, but that when I saw this name, I was like, I am just so in awe of humanity and the world that such an article exists, that this has occurred, and that people have documented it. And this is List of Animals Awarded Human Credentials, and it notes that it is not including times where it was given as some sort of joke human credential based on some company wanting recognition. Oh, haha, we made the cat the leader of our company, so you'll buy more of our product. No, it's not including that. It's only including times where an animal was unintentionally, sometimes intentionally by some behind-the-scenes person trying to expose some, for example, college that hands out diplomas too easily, that animals can get human credentials in our modern society, not based on companies wanting to give a human credential for good press, but based on how fake credentials are and how companies will just hand out credentials so easily without checking the stats that animals have been awarded them. So those are 2 examples of just funny ones. I want to look at it in a minute. And I did go down a mild cat rabbit hole. Okay, I found one more weird cat. This cat looks so crazy. I need to look up this cat. This is a cat that's an actual cat burglar. So cat burglar is a nickname for someone who robs houses in a certain way. But this is a straight up cat burglar. This dude stole over 600 items. This cat stole more than 200 dish towels, 100 gloves. Now, it says he's bringing them back to the family over this time, and that eventually they realized, oh, something's wrong here. Yeah, I think you would have realized a little before 600 items were recovered. Makes me wonder whether 10 wallets was another item that should have been on this list that the cat owners decided to not share with the press. I don't know. It just seems a little weird that this cat stole that much stuff and the owners claimed to realize that late in the process. Okay, in any case, there's actually one article that I have to share with you folks because I think it might be the funniest Wikipedia article I have seen yet. And once I share with you what I think is the Wikipedia article that's made me laugh the most out of any article in my life, then we're going to go on to general unusual articles, as well as me responding to the chat and such, leave any questions or comments, and go on to the general unpredictable nature of what Wikipedia contains on its meta page of what was it called? Unusual articles. And first, I just have to show you an article that I think captures the value of Wikipedia. So, I'm not a guy who's interested in sports. I would not care about what happened in some Olympics about 100 years ago if it wasn't a hilarious story. But it turns out that specifically the marathon contest at the 1904 Summer Olympics was so weird that it has a long article, and that this long article made me die laughing multiple times just of how absurd it was. I don't know if any of you used to watch old cartoons, including maybe the one called Wacky Races, but so this cartoon called Wacky Races, original cartoon, they're making all these weird like figurine versions of them. What is an image from the actual cartoon? Screenshot. Come on, show me an image from the actual Wacky Races cartoon. Maybe this was an image from it. This one is the closest. So, this weird series of cars fighting each other with like techniques to block each other and weird random cartoonish distractions that fall in their place is the closest analogy I have for this Wikipedia article I have to show you. So, this Wikipedia article describes what I would normally be so uninterested in: a man's Olympic race. Now, here's the notes that are very important about this, and honestly, I think it's almost going to be funnier if I just describe this. So I'm going to describe this the way I think this Wikipedia article would be funniest described. And if any of you want to read the article or double check the sources on this, feel free. But I'm skimming through this. The bits that made me laugh out loud are as such. So, normally you have an Olympic marathon on a fixed track. Back in that day, they were not very good at setting things up. So they had this in Louisiana of the United States, down in St. Louis, where basically it was a really extra hot day. All the runners who were able to get there lined up, but it was already a crazy weirdness to get to the Olympics for many other countries. And many of the countries were unable to send their team people to the sport. So a lot of the people who showed up were whatever random Americans were able to make it to Louisiana. And in fact, back in the day, you can look up whatever time the world is on. But when this Olympic took place in 1904, this bit is actually not on Wikipedia. This is a bit I read separately. But according to a separate source I read, one of the teams couldn't even make it to this Olympics because they were still on an old version of the Gregorian calendar. They were on a different calendar than the US. Okay, now, by that, I don't mean that either calendar is better than the other. I just mean it's kind of hilarious how much globalization has changed in the past 100-ish years, that now we're like, of course you could look up what calendar it was somewhere else at the drop of a pin. But here we're like, okay, 100 years ago, they had to sail a ship somewhere and figure out how the calendars aligned. Now, these are the facts that I find so hilarious about this one event that makes me all of a sudden, for one and maybe only one ever time, have a live stream where I talk about a sports event. I don't care about marathons. I think it's lame to try and keep beating the same record humans have already proven things on. Like, okay, every 20 years, check in. Have humans gotten faster? For the meantime, why don't we do other records? What's the highest a human can backflip off a trampoline and eat a berry in the meantime? Obviously, I'm not the main sports inventor. I'll come up with actual real sports that should exist sometime and tell you. But sports are boring to me. But this Olympics was not. So this Olympics, it was a really hot day. All these trucks were driving in front of the Olympians, and so all of this dust was blowing back in their face. So many of the Olympians literally passed out, some near the point of death, even if those were the runners who were expected to win the race originally. They were unable to even get close to the finish line because they passed out from the insane dust and heat. Now, what about the people who did win? Well, the guy who was almost crowned the award, the guy who was being crowned the award at the finish line before some of the participants said, yo, something's wrong, was somebody who didn't want to deal with the dust, so he hitchhiked a car ride to take a car during part of the marathon while being visible in the car and even waving to spectators, and then shows up a little before the finish line and goes out and says, I'm running past the finish line, I won. That's such unregulated marathon that you can take a car for a stretch of it. Okay, so how about the guy, after that guy was kicked out, who actually got the award, who would have been second place, but now was crowned the award? Well, this is even weirder. This guy, he was running okay, and then he got really tired from the heat and dust. So the people who are training him, who I guess back in this era of the Olympics are allowed to like meet up with the Olympian and do things with them in the midst of the race, during the race gave this racer a mix of brandy, a type of alcohol, egg whites, I think you know what those are, and strychnine, which is a poison. Strychnine is literally a poisonous, toxic chemical. Now, so this guy was hallucinating. By the time, we will see for, other reasons, he was the only one to come close to the finish, was hallucinating, strolling over the end line. And this is the bit I find quite scandalous. It says, after he had to cross the finish line, he wasn't even able to quite make it there in his stumbling, hallucinating state, and that his handlers carried him to victory while his legs, as the quote says, while he was shuffling his feet as if still running. So he literally was carried by people across the finish line while he was like pumping his legs and being like, I'm running. That is scandalous that he was crowned the victor. And then it notes that after the fact, He had to go to the hospital immediately on a stretcher, and if he hadn't been treated by 4 doctors, that they thought he would have died from this event, and he lost 8 pounds from it. Okay, so if both of those were scandalous, the first place winner took a car ride there, and the second place winner got carried across the finish line after being fed poison by the people training him. Well, what about anyone who actually passed the line? Well, there is a third place winner. I guess Arthur Newton, I'm noting, should be probably the one noted as the next winner. Or perhaps it's Albert Corey. It's kind of hard to tell right here what's going on in the stats. But it doesn't mention the third place winner much in the actual documentation of this, because the third place winner should have been the second place, which should have been the first place winner. However, what about whoever got fourth place? There is some documentation about that. Well, it turns out that the fourth place winner was a postman who arrived last minute after losing all his money gambling, hitchhiking to the place where the race was taking place, and then really quickly before the race started, cutting off the legs of his pants, not normal running clothes, not wearing like good shorts for running, just cutting off the legs of his pants so his pants were more shorts-like so he could run. And then he hadn't eaten in 40 hours, so it was time to run. He had to start running. Started running, and this is the second most. It just gets funnier and funnier to me. First, it's like, okay, dude hitchhiked across the line. Then it's like, okay, dude got fed strychnine and then carried across the finish line. Somehow this is even funnier. Here is how Wikipedia states it, which you can always double check the citations, but there are multiple citations of real articles to any Wikipedia haters on here. They say, not having eaten in 40 hours, he saw a spectator eating 2 peaches. He asked if he could have the peaches, and the spectator declined. He then stole both peaches and ran away. This is during the race. Later, he stopped off on an orchard en route to eat some apples. This dude loves fruit so much that twice during the marathon, he first steals the peaches, then he's like, an apple orchard? Bro, I need some more fruit. So he stops in an apple orchard to eat some apples, which turned out to be rotten. The rotten apples caused him to have strong stomach cramps, and he had to lie down and take a nap. Despite his discomfort and the pause, by pause, we mean you took a nap during the marathon. Despite his discomfort and the pause, he finished in 4th place. That's how messed up this race was. The best racers were like passed out on the side by dust and heat. That a guy who stopped twice during the race to gather fruit and then took a nap got 4th. Now, here is a note that says, I said that was the second funniest bit that I noted from this story. There's one funnier bit, and maybe this is just because it's all just tucked at the very end of the Wikipedia article. Something about where it's placed made me laugh the hardest, because I was like, okay, I'm done with the crazy part of the story. This is probably gonna get to the point where I'm at like, okay, and then the race finished, the end. But no, the South African entrants, Len Tanyawane and Jan Mishani, finished 9th and 12th, respectively. This was a disappointment, as many observers were sure Tanyanwe would have done better if he had not been chased nearly a mile off course by wild dogs. What? Like, the very end of this article of the most shit show of all time of Olympic things yet, apart from maybe the one hosted in Nazi Germany, is the dude was chased a mile off course by wild dogs? Now, as I've noted to the Wikipedia haters, there are links for these things. Wikipedia is a compilation of knowledge, and yes, it is publicly contributed to. That is how it's so vast. I love encyclopedias. Any encyclopedia has an author or authors, and you cannot trust any human on Earth 100% of the time. So are you just going to not read encyclopedias because you don't like them? Or are you going to trust that hopefully if this encyclopedia has a good enough editing staff that the knowledge of the humans translates to true knowledge? Well, whether or not you want to trust this, this told me about the funniest story I had heard in a long time. So, that is just an example of how a Wikipedia article, like, we're going to need to take a peek if we get as much craziness out of some of our next articles, like lawsuits against supernatural beings, or list of animals awarded human credentials, or the general list of unusual articles, are as weird. But if they're even half as funny, I think I'll appreciate it. Now, time for a quick peek at our chat, because I do like checking with that once in a while. Thank you to everybody here, and thank you to everybody leaving our random comments. I'm just going to reply to one or two, because I don't have time to reply to all of you, although I do see them all and enjoy them all. Somebody says, isn't St. Louis in Missouri? Maybe maybe you're right. That, yes, okay, I'm bad at geography. I'm putting that in my head because it is the beginning of the way that Louisiana is spelled. This commenter is right that St. Louis, this was in Missouri, not Louisiana. This occurred. I assumed St. Louis would be in St. Louisiana. But nah, you know how names are. That's a whole nother Wikipedia article. I got some saved for later that are so good I can't put them in a compilation stream like this where we just go over a ton of different ones. One that's going to be its own stream is one that reminds me of, which is words that are similar in different contexts but don't actually connect. They just look similar. Okay, that commenter is right. And we got some people saying that we really do live in the wrong era. Now, here's the funny thing. I have often thought that I live in the wrong era, but then it sort of balances, because sometimes I think I live in too late of an era, where I think if I lived way back in the day, I could have just freaking picked berries with people and just like appreciated the sun and moon and picked some berries and looked at the stars and the plants and stuff. But then I'm like, sometimes, oh, I'm in the wrong era because I'm too early. In the future, we're going to have like space travel and all the humans are going to live longer and all this cool stuff. And then I'm like, okay, maybe I live in the perfect era. Maybe I live in the era where I'm close enough to old-fashioned that I get some forests around me and stuff, but I do have globalization and internet to be able to share all these thoughts with you folks, and I'm too early for who knows what chaos will happen in the future. Speaking of which, one funny article that I did come across was a list of years that the Earth has been predicted to end in. So, let's look at some more of these in a second. I need to run inside just for a moment to grab some water and go to the bathroom real quick. I'll be back in like 3 minutes. For the time being, what we're going to do is I'm not going to set up a whole song for you folks to hear. Sometimes I do that. I've been making new soundtrack beats. I'll show you those later. For now, you folks can read the beginning of the list of unusual articles, and you can leave a comment if you have any unusual articles that you are especially interested in us viewing toward the beginning of this list. We'll make it small to see more. Are you interested in any of, which places and infrastructure based article are you interested in me definitely clicking? I already know there's about 3 on this section I need to click, but you can leave a comment on which one you want me to click the most. Now, I'll be back very shortly. Thank you all for your comments. I may reply to more later, and you can always leave some more thoughts. Last one I'll respond to here. Somebody notes that it's true that if you always hit the top link in the Wikipedia article, aka the first blue text you encounter within an article's text, you will always loop back to the term philosophy. And that is something I have tried with friends. I heard that from a friend. I tried it. It was true the few times I tried it. And so they note that maybe graph theory could be interesting to explain that. I think it's a graph theory mixed with the kind of concept that maybe philosophy is one of the deeper running things under many different mental ecosystems. Now, another game that I've noted is you can play a game where you try and get from one article to another article in a minimal number of clicks. And that one is pretty awesome. You take article A, you take article B, and you see how few amount of clicks on blue texts will it take me to get from there to there. So yeah, we could definitely get some knowledge from graph theory to learn more about that. But we're going to have to mix graph theory with some philosophy about the meta-philosophy of why philosophy is so important. So, okay, I'll be back soon. Let me know if any of these you really care about, and we're going to look at what Wikipedia itself considers to be the most unusual articles. All right, folks. So we are back, and let's see if anyone has any preferences on these. We have a comment wanting recursive lakes, or islands and lakes. Somebody says there's already a good video about Phantom Lakes on YouTube. Maybe that, or Phantom Islands. So we might as well pull up Phantom Islands as well. And we have somebody wanting Rocket Garden as well. Okay, we also have someone saying Spite House would be pretty funny. So we're going to have to at least briefly go through each of these. Now, some of these other ones I wanted to note about. One of the ones I wanted to note about is this thing called Gravity Hill. Because if I'm not wrong, this could reference ones that are not that far from me. I live in California, and a couple hours from me, down in Santa Cruz, there are these places called Confusion Hill and the Mystery Spot. Those are two different places that I've been to in the past that, I swear, tripped out my mind. They create the landscape in a weird way that you think you're not at a tilt, but you are or something, so they can make balls roll upward and stuff. I swear, there's these houses that are like giant magic tricks. And when you go there, they'll tell you, oh, it's due to some mythical connection with the earth and landscape. And you're like, okay, I'm a spiritual guy. Maybe there's some little connection, but that's not why the ball's rolling uphill. So why is the ball rolling uphill? And you go there, and they're not going to tell you why the ball's rolling uphill, but they pull a good magic trick on you. They distort your illusions of sense. And so I recommend those places. Do they have those referenced anywhere? List of gravity hills. Let's see if they have my ones listed here. California, U.S., United States has these ones listed. California has... Oh, this is weird. They're like coordinates for where the gravity hills are. Okay, this one's called Mystery Spot, so that's one of the ones I was referencing. And the one called Confusion Hill is another weird one like that. These also seem to have been, like ones like the Mystery Spot, seem to have been to some degree an inspiration for the cartoon called Gravity Falls, which is actually a very good cartoon. Now, these locations tripped me out as a kid because I could not explain them, and maybe I need to revisit them sometime to try and explain them, because I still am not sure how they got it looking like the ball rolled uphill. And they do other illusions. They have you like hang from poles and you look different heights than normal, and it's weird. The thing is, I've done magic tricks in the past, so I know that there are cool tricks at play. And maybe, for all I know, a small percent of it is some mythical magnetic force from the cyber universe. But the majority part of it has got to be a cool illusion. And I like magic tricks, so I'm curious. Maybe I'll revisit these hills someday to figure out how they do those illusions. Now, okay, someone says Spite House is funny. Let's go there. A spite house is a building constructed or substantially modified to irritate any neighbors or party with land stakes. So a spite house is like, okay, you own a property and you have a neighbor. This is my example in my brain of what I can imagine. You have a property and you have a neighbor who like barely ever stays on their property. Maybe they're rich and they own some summer home somewhere they always stay at. And they're like almost never on the property they technically own on the edge of your house. Yet they say like, we don't want you to have any statues because we find statues offensive. Well, maybe you're going to construct a ton of statues on the edge of your house just to be like, Don't tell me what to do with my property. I'm not saying it's a good technique to be a neighbor. I'm not saying I recommend creating a spite house, but you can kind of get where they're coming from. Sometimes you could have an. Luckily, my neighbors are really cool. Let's shout out my neighbors. 10:30 p.m. It is a Friday night, so we can go a little later without worrying about being a nuisance. But shout out my neighbors. My neighbors are respectful and cool. But if you had a asshole neighbor, then you could create a spite house if you felt obligated to. Now, I'm not recommending it. Now, do they have any funny examples of this? This is the best part, because with Wikipedia, lists like this, or pages that contain list-like things, first you get your description, then you get a paragraph or two about the basic philosophical sense of it, and then they're like, okay, these are the actual times it happened. Apparently this sounds really messed up. This emperor had captured 30,000 inhabitants, and so he modeled a fake city where he forced his they're calling them subjects. I'm going to call them, they're dancing around this. They're calling them inhabitants and subjects. Let's call them slaves, because that's probably more accurately what they were in this circumstance. He forced his slaves to live in old homes and workplaces. And not in actually their old homes and workplaces. A fake city that looked like them. Now that's actually really messed up, to take somebody, put them in slavery, and then fake rebuild their reality and be like, no, you're still in your house, except that you're working for me. That's actually really messed up. I'm trying to keep my sort of laughing persona throughout this, so let's skip that one. How about this salt maker? Now, in Marblehead, Massachusetts, this became known as Old Spite House. Apparently, maybe two brothers occupied different sections, would not speak each other, and did not want to sell out their parts to each other. And apparently, this is the example of the Old Spite House. They had completely different constructions. Based on how I was comically or, cartoonishly interpreting Spite House. Spite House. I keep saying Spike House. And that's because I imagine that a spite house of this sort would have spikes running through the walls to terrify the opposite side. As I say again, do not build a spite house. Now, I'm going from non-recommending a spite house to anti-recommending a spite house. Love your neighbors. Do not build a spite house. But let's look at the examples. They're kind of funny. So, how's that one supposed to be a spite house? That one's supposed to be one because he built a house directly across from his stepbrother's mansion. That's not a big deal. Come on. Building a house. I'm imagining building a house that has, something very spiteful in it based on our name. Now, okay, sorry to our Spite House lovers. I'm going to look through this article later. All of you can look through the article later. But, I don't think I'm going to spend all of our time today looking at Spite House. I will save this for later, and if I find something really funny in this article, you know that later I'll make a Spite House callback. In any case, let's look at rocket gardens. What are rocket gardens? Those are a very silly way of displaying missiles. I take a mild amount of offense to them calling it a garden, and I think we should go with the term rocket park, because that is not a garden. A garden contains plants, not giant hunks of dangerous metal that could damage other nations or be unsuccessful attempts at us reaching space. Now, okay, this has a short enough article. Kind of lame. Rocket parks, thumbs down. Actually, no. Put all the rockets in one park. That's fine. All the dead rockets, one rocket park. Unified rocket park. Then we can put all the rockets in one single park, and then all the other ones don't have to be called gardens for having giant hunks of metal. So stick all the old rockets in a singular rocket park, maybe one rocket park per nation if different countries care about having their own rocket parks. We don't need a million of these things. That is not a garden. I'm using the secondary term because say no garden. Anyway, what about Phantom Islands? One commenter noted that somewhere on YouTube there is a good video documenting examples or something of Phantom Islands. Now, Phantom Islands are supposed islands that were on maps, but once we later saw they didn't exist, whether it was they didn't exist at all or that they were not in the right place or size. But a Phantom Island in general would be, hey, this old map shows there's something out at sea there, but now we went out to sea there and there's not anything there. So the funny thing is, if you went to old enough Phantom Islands, a lot of them could actually exist because y'all heard of Pangea? You know, the Earth used to be one continent. Things have changed many times in terms of how it's volcanic eruptions typically are what causes different land masses to change. And so volcanic eruptions could have had Phantom Islands that did exist on a map and then no longer existed. Other times, maybe people drew a map that was really wrong. And I imagine there could be different ways that could be interesting. You could have a map that was wrong because somebody was like trying to manipulate the people and make a fake island. More likely, you could have wrong maps because they miscalculated a distance and thought that a different landmass was there. But then if they thought it was an island, if they thought a big landmass was a Phantom Island, they would have had to not only think it was the wrong distance, but also think it had the wrong type of shoreline. Like that it was small, wrapped around by water. So, Phantom Islands, here's another awesome sounding article that we're just going to look at a few examples of, because this is what I mean by why Wikipedia can be beautiful, particularly sections like their unusual articles meta page, that we can find all these different topics. And I'm not really expecting to learn something deep around the universe today. I'm expecting to find many different subtopics that I later want to explore deeper. And then once I've explored them deeper, may find many separate cool things about the universe. And so, you know, as usual, Phantom Islands could almost get their own episode. But for a quick scroll, there's the Isle of Demons. The Isle of Demons sounds pretty mythological. They say those are purely mystical, and they have been based on mostly local legends. And so maybe local ancient cultures said, hey, you better not swim in the water, otherwise you'll fall out in the Isle of Demons. You know, it's if you swim after you've eaten a meal, if you swim within an hour of you've eaten a meal, you're going to go to the Isle of Demons. And then maybe some people interpreted that as a literal island as opposed to a sort of metaphor or parable. Now, here's another one, the northern island of Thule. This was rumored by the explorer Pytheas, but information about it is lost. They can't figure out what it was. Maybe it was one of these. So there's an island that this guy probably had the wrong location of, that he was looking at one of these landscapes, but he called it Thule. Now, some Phantom Islands are the faulty positioning of actual islands or other geographical errors. Like, here's one that was just a misidentification of that one. Here's one that appear as different things, but really they're the same. Here's one that is accidentally a copy of that. And those are ones that, based on some error, we doubled up something on a map. Two people found the same lake, and one was like, I see a bunch of frogs. I'm calling this Frog Lake, and I think it's about a mile east. And then another's like, oh, I found the lake, but I think it's about a mile north, and I think it's full of lizards, so I'm calling it Lizard Lake. And then the maps are like, okay, there's Frog Lake and Lizard Lake. But it turns out maybe that the frogs and lizards come out on different seasons, and that both people got their directions slightly wrong, and that it is both of those. Now, other Phantom Islands can be misidentifications of things related to ice breaking off. Breakers, which are a thing coming off an iceberg. Or no, breaker is referring to a water wave. Icebergs, fog banks. You can maybe even think of fog bank as an island. A pumice raft. That looks like a chunk of a certain volcanic material that floats sometimes. And sometimes it could even be an optical illusion. Now here, New South Greenland, they say, is an appearance of land that was sighted by an explorer, but they think it may have been a type of mirage. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen mirages, but if you've ever seen a heat wave, that's a version of a mirage. You look low on a really hot day at something like concrete, and you can see the heat ripple in a way that makes an effect that looks water-like. And you can imagine how people in deserts may have seen mirages of oases. Is oases the plural of oasis? They may have seen mirages of at least one oasis. And you can imagine that maybe if you had a slightly different humidity or something, that mirage could have given you the opposite. You're on the water on a boat and you think you see a false island. So, some are even inverted geographic features. This sounds like they just almost got the topology or topography wrong of the map. So, these are many examples. Once again, we cannot fit this in an episode. There are so many cool things we are going to find on this list of unusual articles. We were literally just so far looking at the unusual articles based on places and infrastructure. And we're not even done, because we have recursive islands and lakes in that section. Now, oh my god, I love this so much. You folks don't even know how happy I am that we saw this article. So, this is like a concept that I write into my books. I think it's really interesting to have like an island in a lake and an island in a lake, or to have the way that's a metaphor for many things in reality. But even as a physical thing, that having like a lake within a lake or an island within an island are things I write in my books. You folks don't all know, but I have a lot of goals. They're not just to keep Combo Class growing. That's one of my main goals. But I have novels I want to write and things like that. And that's one of my biggest goals, are these books that I've been writing for my life. And some of my novels certainly include what we could call recursive islands and lakes. Now that gave me a weird flashback to a book that I wrote and forgot about 10 or 15 years ago. So, islands and islands. Well, I guess we're starting with islands and lakes. And there's not many notable examples. What do you mean? Oh, no, only a few notable examples. I was like, what do you mean there's not many notable examples? You got a giant table right here. Okay, so these are the only notable examples of islands in lakes. That's pretty cool. You got a lake somewhere. Now, a lake cannot be an ocean. They are different scientific definitions. And a lake within a lake, I mean, it's mildly ambiguous. It's not an on or off switch. But you can pretty usually tell when a lake is either non-moving from different sources around the planet, and or lakes are more often clear water lakes, although you have saltwater lakes as well. But more often lakes are clear water. One of the things that makes the wildlife cool where I live is that I live near a bay. What is a bay? The bay I live near is what's known as an estuary, scientifically, and it means that saltwater and clear water mix. And so you have clear water rivers and runoffs from lakes that run down places of California, and then you have the salt water from the ocean. And here in I live on the East Bay of the San Francisco Bay. And around the Bay Area, gotta say, got some beautiful plants because you get cool stuff from the mix of salt water and clear water. Combo. Now, as far as islands in lakes, that would be extra cool. You got a lake with an island in it. I'm sure there are a bajillion of those on the planet, but we're talking about ones where both the island and the lake were big enough for it to be notable. We're not talking about a giant lake that had a tiny rock in it, and we're also not talking about an island-like mass that had a tiny little river around it that we might call a lake. We're talking about the part of it we'd call a lake and the part of it we'd call the island are both notable. Now, here we got a ton of examples. We got islands in lakes on... I'm going to have to read this later. Islands in lakes on islands. There are nearly 1,000 islands in lakes on islands in Finland alone. Islands in lakes on islands in lakes. I love these like meta combinations. You shouldn't be surprised because we're called combo class. So you can't always just hope to combine alternate things like A and B and C and D together. Sometimes you get cool mixes of A plus B divided by A times D within B, A. Sometimes having a limited amount of variables, but a larger amount of ways you combine them is even cooler. Here we almost have just two variables and then two connectors. Our variables are islands or lakes, and our connectors are in or on. And here we got islands in lakes on islands in lakes. Islands in lakes on islands in lakes on islands. I'm in heaven, folks, that this article exists. Islands in lakes on islands in lakes on islands in lakes. Okay. Okay, we got recursive lakes. So recursive lakes. What is that? I mean, you kind of need an island between the lakes. So wouldn't a recursive... Maybe they just mean we're going even further. Maybe they mean we're so many levels recursive that we just cannot state how many levels of recursion we're at for the island and lake combo. I'm going to visit one of the craziest one of these someday. This is one of my goals now. One of my new goals is to go to an island in a lake on an island in a lake on an island. Okay, we also got lakes on islands and lakes on islands. Might sound like we're going to less terms, but we have a different starting term, so we have a different sort of combination. And, oh my god, do these now sound more boring when we get down to the related articles once we've been at lakes on islands in lakes on islands in lakes, and only one such lake is known? Okay, that is pretty crazy. This to me is, when we're like, here's a trait about numbers and only one number does this. Well, this is kind of, a physical, scientific version of that is currently in Earth's habitat, only one lake on an island in a lake on an island in a lake is known to exist. Good Lord, I'm obsessed with this article. Don't worry, I will come back to all these fun ones later. We have only gone through this section of unusual articles related to places and infrastructure. And wait a minute. No. We did not even get to the ones related to places and infrastructure. We got to the ones related to a general list of place names. And then they have sectors for different countries and continents. These are all the crazy places in Africa. These are all the crazy places. I mean, obviously not all the crazy places. The ones that were voted as the most unusual by Wikipedia's contributors and editors. However, I don't think we should downstate that. Everything you see online, you see based on voting from some democratic process, based on who clicked it up and clicked it down and did or didn't comment it during the algorithm, and what you've clicked before, and etc. So everything we see online is some combination of different people's assumptions and guesses and goals. And so who's to say that Wikipedia, with more trained guessers and goalers and assumptioners, is not at least as good as any of those other ones? I want to say that I'm okay saying these are known to humanity as some of the more interesting places in Antarctica. It's not necessarily... Oh my god, I just looked back at the chat for the first time at what my thing looks like. I'm tiny. Okay, now I'm less tiny. Sorry. I haven't looked back down there in a minute. I was really tiny for a second. Anyway, I'm fine saying these are some of the best places in, not best, but most unusual, based on this meta list, places in Antarctica. Because you need a human democracy for almost any knowledge you end up getting. And so, who's not to trust the human democracy that led to this more checked than usual website? So, if we want in a future episode, we'll look at the craziest places in each continent. They get way more in depth about the places in every continent. But what about things that aren't places? Okay, folks, this is why I said this is going to be more than one stream. Because do you see where our search bar is? You see that right there? We were about 10% of the way down the unusual articles, even after I skipped every continent. Even after skipping every single continent's local things, we get to other categories. And by the time we get to the next category, we're like 15% down the list. So the next category is history. And what are weird, like, what would that mean to be a weird article about history? Well, there are some things maybe we can expect about history. In old history, people struggled over food and housing. Of course, they still struggle over those things. And in various eras, maybe we know certain things about history, like humans unfortunately like to have war with each other over territory or over ability to have food or things like that. So, over, historical struggles of food and war and territory and such, what are things that are unusual? Those would be the ones that don't fit in that normal. It would be non-unusual for some historical nation to have tried to take over another based on their food. Yeah, it would be an absolute terrible move of them, not something that I say they should do. It's as we would say in the industry, a dick move of some of those nations like Mongolia taking over other countries. But that's not to say that, in general, those are the less unusual. Many, many developed nations have fought over food and spices and fought over territory, fought over rights, whether they're allowed to own slaves and such. So these sort of wars are, while incredibly important to history, not unusual. They are things that happen a lot in history, for better or for worse, and usually for worse, with the ones that I happen to name right there. But there are things that, we could note better things throughout history too. Cultures like forming family-like villages, and that could be a good thing, to counterbalance our cultures like forming nations that war over territory. So there are goods and bads with what we expect from history, but what do we not expect from history? Just like weird stories that clash with whatever our expectations are. And that's why I want this meta list, because here we are on what Wikipedia has decided are the most unusual historical events. The events that are different from a typical, I fought you over a spice or a food or a territory. These are the weird ones. So I don't even know where to start here. This is like 500 streams worth. These are so interesting. I'm just going to, for now, and I'll try and check the comments more regularly. We're like 15% through Wikipedia's unusual articles. So obviously we're not going to do them all in today's stream. We're going to be scrolling through and picking particular ones that are either notable to me or notable to the chat. So leave a comment if there's any you want to see. Probably any comment, any regularly phrased comment. I will look at whatever article you want me to click that is on this list. For now, the one that catches my eye, I gotta say, is criterion of embarrassment. Because what would that mean? It's just, I love this aspect of research and life and just being interested in life is, okay, there's an article called Criterion of Embarrassment. So first, maybe I'll think, like, what would an article about that be about? And then maybe I'll read it. And either of those types of analysis are helpful, the personal analysis or the checking sources. And criterion of embarrassment is just an interesting concept. To me, before I read any of it, to me it would be some historical thing that relates to how humans sense embarrassment as a human animalistic emotion, and it causes them some sort of reaction, but I don't know what the criterion would be. So here we get to see what is the criterion of embarrassment. It's a biblical analogy. Okay, big surprise I didn't get it. It's straight. Okay, just to be clear, yeah, we roast religion once in a while here but in the combo class because religion is occasionally anti science. We are not inherently anti religion in the combo class. Religion is not inherently bad. Um, we will roast examples of religion that are bad. So here I'm not. I'm saying this because I kind of scoffed when I was like, okay, it's a biblical analysis. A lot of biblical analyses get their marks wrong. And to anybody who's mad at me because you're a Christian, do you even know if I am or not? Do you? Well, no, it turns out I'm not a Christian, but I was born from the Jewish culture, and Jesus was a Jew, and I believe many of Jesus's beliefs, and I believe not necessarily that he was real, but I believe many of the philosophies attributed to him, and I believe in many of the goals of Christianity, such as loving your neighbor and loving your enemy. So, if I mock biblical references, that's probably because a lot of the attributes of Christianity that people like me who aren't Christian would benefit from or praise are completely contradictory to what's in the Bible. The Bible promotes evil things, and I cannot bite my tongue and say that. I'm not saying being Christian is evil. I'm saying that in the Bible, there is no biting your tongue around the fact that the Bible promotes murder of cultures you don't agree with, promotes rape of women and an incredible misogyny toward women, promotes a hierarchical status of people control their kids, promotes that things like that even people who think none of those things I said are a problem, that they do. The Bible says that if you wear mixed fabrics, if you have any, which every single one of you is currently unless you're naked, if you wear what's known as mixed fabrics, the way fabrics are designed in clothes, that you're not allowed to go to heaven. So, to anybody who is so hardcore Christian, they're annoyed with my analysis about that, you better be naked. Don't show me, but you better be naked because mixed fabrics aren't going to get you into heaven, brother. So, to restate, when we mock things that are citing the Bible to an absurdist degree, that is not even mocking Christianity. If you treat Christianity as what Jesus apparently believed, I have no problem with most of that. I love most of it. So, just, you got to, if you cite a source, you have to go to the end with it or throw in your hat. You have to either say, at some point my source was wrong, or you have to be willing to go to the end with your source and say, it's right to this step, it's right to this step, it's right to this step. And so, someday maybe we will do a 20-hour live stream where we read the Bible, but I don't think so. I studied a lot of the Bible because a lot of people don't actually know that Jewish culture is actually very connected with Christian culture. Not only was Jesus definitely Jewish, that is not, I'm not saying Jesus even existed, but in the culture, Jesus was Jewish. That is part of the Bible. But when you look at the New Testament and Old Testament, and then you look at which portions of those correspond with the Torah, which is one of the things the Jews believe. I mean, not the Jews. I'm Jewish and don't really believe it. But people who, believe the Jewish religion typically follow the Torah. And you realize many of those books are literally the same books as the Bible. I don't know if many people, for some reason, they don't realize that a lot of the books of the Torah overlap with the exact same books of what Catholics believe in terms of the Old Testament and New Testament. Like, not even that they're the same, saying the same thing, that they are literally the same book. So, I have actually read bits of the Bible due to having a bar mitzvah and doing a portion of the Torah. For when you take a bar mitzvah, you study portions of it and you write theses upon it. And you give a speech during your bar mitzvah about the study of it you studied. And the portion I studied was not just out of the Jewish culture, it's literally out of the Bible too. People do not realize these are the same texts. So, sorry for a divergence. I get a little annoyed at that sometimes, that if I ever criticize religion, people think I'm like anti-religious people, or maybe that I don't believe in similar things that a hypothetical Jesus believed. No, I think you should love your neighbors, and you should feed the poor, and you should love your enemies. These are things Jesus apparently believed. So, if I criticize things like murder and rape in the Bible, that should not sound like I'm criticizing Jesus's ideas. So, sorry for a long diatribe into a random tangent. I will bite my tongue. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because this entire article seems to be referencing biblical things. And I shouldn't even go into those, or I would just keep talking about this same topic more. So going further from there, the one that sounded interesting to me, but led me on to a long tangent that will only offend more of my viewers as time goes on. But as a reminder, don't get offended when anybody has a different belief than you. Only get offended if that human tries to force their belief on you, or if they try and criticize your belief in a way you believe is unjust. Can't be offended if someone has a different opinion or belief, only if they make your belief sound wrong or force theirs on you. Now, let's just go to the next section. Okay, no more history for 1 minute. The weirdest Wikipedia history articles can be its own article. Well, I know a lot of you will probably like this section, but this has to be its own article too. Okay. Anybody? Okay, I have to run inside for one more quick second to go back to grab some more water. But if anybody has anyone they need to see off our mathematical list, leave a comment about if there's any of these, or quickly look. Here's the other ones. Okay, there's a lot. See, these are all topics that I like. The mathematics ones are different. These ones are ones that I know 90% of these, and I'm like, okay, so 90% of these concepts I know, and 50% of these Wikipedia articles, I have literally read the article before. So, leave a comment if there's any that today you want to see me talk about in the mathematics section. Because, apart from any that are particularly commented right now, we're going to spend the rest of our stream looking at other topics. This is like a whole stream of its own. Looking at dates and timekeeping, language, and language is the whole language. So language and dates and timekeeping. But leave a comment if any of these mathematics and number topics intrigue you so much that you just have to hear me go through it today. I'll be back soon. Okay, I am back, folks, for the last sector of our Wikipedia analysis for this stream. Now, anyone here did not leave any pressing comments about the mathematical ones we might cover. So, we're going to look at the unusual mathematical articles in another stream, just to go over like why these are all so cool. Like I noted, these are concepts that 90% of these I know and really enjoy and would either love to talk about, already have talked about, or have an episode planned about. So this will save for a proper series of streams or episodes of. They got some good articles listed on their mathematics section, but to look at some other sections that we might expect a little less or not necessarily know any knowledge about yet, what about abolition of time zones? This is saying that what if we abolished time zones? Well, time zones do exist for a reason when we're trying to coordinate certain things like airplanes or things. So, other things could be easier if we abolished all time zones and it was always the same time in any given region. They note here some advantages and disadvantages. Now we can look through those at our discretion, and I'll analyze those another day. But today, on our slightly quicker scroll through these, we have a variety of strange holidays. They have Christmaka and stuff that was. Some of these are kind of lame because they're talking about things that are based on a TV show. I do remember Festivus from Seinfeld. I don't remember Christmaka because I didn't watch the OC. But, me and my friends have our own holiday that's our own version of Hanukkah that I cannot even tell you the name of yet. But just wait till you see the videos that I've filmed of me and my friends' versions of what I call extreme dreidel. Now, we do have some more mathematical ones popping up too. Mole Day is based on a scientific constant. Pi Day is, of course, based on the decimal representation of a classic number. Now, I think Pi Day is wrong. I think where Pi Day is completely wrong. We should base Pi Day's proportion throughout the year based on a more actual fraction of pi, not based on the decimal representation, assuming we're using base 10. No. So, next Pi Day, I'm going to make a short or bonus video that relates to where I think Pi Day actually should be. Now, some of these straight up sound like marketing gimmicks. How did they convince the average person in Japan that celebrating this brand, Pocky is a brand, that they get to name the holiday about celebrating long biscuits? Okay, if you live in Japan and you want a holiday about celebrating long biscuits on 11/11, cool. But why call it based on a brand? Okay, now we get some more. We get Square Root Day. Oh, that's cool. I've actually done live. I didn't know I do it. Wait, what? Oh my God, I didn't know they actually did this. I did this as a joke in some stream earlier. Like a year ago or something, as a joke. I was like, it's the square root of 12 day or something. That's what I named one of the streams earlier. That's cool. I didn't know that that other humans already understood what it would mean to celebrate a square root day. Okay, yeah. And in my own home state, that's even where it came up. Shout out Ron Gordon. Okay, Ron Gordon, you know what's up. You thought through this thing like me. You created your first square root day like 40 years ago. Wait, what? Alright, okay. Combo class square root day is a little different than Ron Gordon's square root day, or at least the suggestions made to his square root day after the fact, because if you're cutting a square root, they're saying that you gotta physically cut a square out of a root? Okay, I can understand that as a pun, but radishes, man, I'm a fruit vegetable lover. I love vegetables. I love fruits. I love eating and cooking fresh stuff. But radishes kind of suck. I'm sorry. Okay, you get pickled radishes. Maybe are okay. Like a straight up radish. Dude, radish is not that good. Okay, we need a better celebration. What's another root vegetable that we can do? How about a turnip? I don't know that much about the taste of turnips. Okay, they're listing a lot of square root days. I like this. Wait, no. Wait a minute. They only do square root day when the 2 days are the root of the year. No. Wait a minute. They got square root day wrong on Wikipedia. You should get to celebrate many square root days every year. Pick a number. Let's pick 15. Square root of 15. The 87th day of the 3rd month would be, if that existed, the square root of 15 day. Square root of 15 day does not exist on most calendars because the 87th day of the 3rd month does not exist on most calendars. How about square root of 13 day? Okay, no, that one's also not good. How about square root of 11 day? That one just fits, but not if we round up. So that kind of depends if we round or not. Okay, that one's interesting. Is this a square root day, or would that be the 32nd day of the 3rd month? Do we round or not? Anyway, calendars are already ambiguous and silly. I'll make my point about Pi Day and square root days another day. Anyway, we were scrolling through all the unusual articles. I do have to note, really funny, the reason I have the Google search for when I went to this article already still here, saved, is because I thought it was hilarious how normally you search something on Wikipedia, they might have some subtitles like straight on Google. Like I just Googled Wikipedia unusual articles as I already had that page planned for the stream. But when I was setting up the stream page, I was like, okay, let's get it. Wikipedia unusual articles on Google. Now they have all these sub-entries, and some of the sub-entries they have the funniest names I've ever seen for a Wikipedia sub-entry. Usually it would be like, okay, here's the topic, obvious subtopic. But what are obvious subtopics of unusual articles? Well, it turns out some of the most frequented were deleted articles with freaky titles, list of really stupid article ideas, silly things, and here, whatever that means. What are deleted articles with freaky titles? So I guess these special characters were a little too freaky. You cannot, that is kind of stupid to try and name this set of emojis as a redirect to the page for sun. But I don't know if I'd classify it as freaky. Now, can we find any actually freaky ones that will get me canceled? Yeah, I probably shouldn't say some of these. I'm joking because morally good human is uncancelable in the long scale. Because, someday the Alien TV show about all this is going to happen. You know, light takes a while to travel. So if aliens are filming a TV show about this right now, doesn't even need to have started yet. Aliens can start filming their TV show in a ton of years, and the light will take the right amount of time to travel. Well, when aliens make their TV show about this, they will know, who believes what and what actually happened. I'm not sure where I was going with that, but I guess my point was that if I say any of these that would be offensive out of context, the aliens will know I did not mean anything offensive by it. Of course, there's a difference between if you say so, if you're like me and you're willing to say a word that could be offensive. I'm not going to say like the N word or some swear word that's really mean to a group of people. But if you say certain words milder than that, that are fit a context, particularly if you're reading an article and quoting it as opposed to saying it as your direct bringing to the world, you're quoting something, I think the aliens will understand. Still, that does not mean have permission to say bad words because you think the aliens will understand. What does a bad word mean? Well, is the bad word bad because it is offensive and mean to a group of people? Then don't say it. Is the bad word bad for some less logical reason than that it hurts a group of people? Like if it doesn't hurt a group of people, and for some reason it's still a bad word, then maybe you can think twice about including that in your vocabulary. But don't say words that hurt others. Come on. Now, that's why I'm not going to quote all these, just because some of them sound kind of weird, like even just like illegal resident. Like that does not contain swear words, but like as a quote, it's kind of like weird. It's like, why would you try and, make someone feel worse for moving somewhere, especially when this quote is usually used amongst Americans like myself who moved originally from another place. Now, my ancestors actually migrated from Germany. In fact, my grandfather on one of the sides escaped the Holocaust as a Jew in Germany, saw most of his family killed, and came to America then. So, yeah, I am 2 generations back an illegal immigrant because my grandfather had to escape the Holocaust to move here to give birth to my father who gave birth to me. So, yeah, you want to hate on illegal immigrant families? Then hate on me because my grandfather had to immigrate due to his entire family being murdered by Nazis. Well, how about other cases of that? I'm just going to note here, I'm sorry when I have to feel obligated to get political, but if you feel like someone moving to your country is ruining your life, and it's just like a single person moving to your country, get over yourself. You probably have ancestors who illegally immigrated somewhere, possibly even as part of like whatever patriotism you claim was an immigration. Like anyone who's an American or US citizen who's, I'm so patriotic, I only believe that Americans should live in America. Did you forget that America was built off us immigrating away from Britain? America is literally a country built off immigration. Every single original American immigrated from Britain, and many of them since then had to immigrate from another place, like my grandfather, to escape the Holocaust. So, if you're hating on some illegal immigrant, then you just think that as soon as I came to the land, I own the land, and no one after me can come to the land. So that's why, I can't say many of these quotes without leaving a long rant about them. So maybe this is the best article for us, deleted articles with freaky titles, because I'm going to feel obligated to comment on whether or not I feel they're freaky or not. But here we go. This is the article about deleted articles with freaky titles. We also have hilariously mentioned here whatever list of really stupid ideas. Oh my god, they even put more reallys in that title. The original title is list of really, really, really stupid article ideas that you should really, really, really not create. This is just trying to be like, bro, don't make an article about your own family or your own company. Don't make an article about your own band if you're in a band. Now, I got to admit, folks, that someday one of my goals in life is to deserve a Wikipedia article about myself. That does not mean go out and make a Wikipedia article about me. Don't do that because it'll probably get deleted. I don't have enough citations of different organizations I've worked with, different proofs of ways that I've helped society or anything like that. We'll get there. Someday, people will be able to make a Wikipedia article for me, hopefully, that has a ton of citations. But don't rush there or it'll just get deleted too early because, as they say, you're not supposed to make a Wikipedia article about your own self or your own band or your own company or anything like that. And although one of my goals in life is to someday be somebody who deserves to have a Wikipedia article, the word deserves is holding a lot of weight in there. I don't mean just try and make one for me because you're a fan of me. I mean, someday I will deserve to have a Wikipedia article. Now, these are examples of ones that got deleted, or in this case, more like examples of what will get deleted if you post it. Can't just post your street you live on. Don't post a singular Pokemon region. Don't post any singular thing in pop culture that is not, has enough citations. A lot of these are kind of rudely written, the way they write them here, but I get the point of what they mean with this article of you can't just make a random article to be like, oh, here's my neighbor was funny. Why don't we write an article about my neighbor? But they do have weirdly specific ones. You have to feel like whoever wrote this was specifically offended over previous incidents. Why is number 56 times Scooby-Doo has defied the laws of reality? Have they really gotten that many attempts at making new Wikipedia articles about Scooby-Doo defying the laws of reality? Or did whoever write this bit just get extra offended at one time somebody did that? Okay. So, let me roll back through our comments a bit. I do like to chat with our comments. I know I haven't been doing it a huge amount today, but to roll back a little bit, thank you to everybody who's leaving random comments and thoughts. And I suppose I'll reply to a few before we go to our last few articles. And oh my god, I just have to say, I was looking at the comments and looking over here, and I have to note that some of these are just actually just specific roasts toward a person. So I thought this was a roast toward some person that overdid Scooby-Doo references on Wikipedia's, but maybe they just hate Scooby-Doo? Because down here, there's someone they just certainly roasted. Number 70 is just singing any Cardi B song. Now, I guess singing a song would not ever make sense for a Wikipedia article. Wikipedia articles would be about the song being published and the critical recognition of it and such. But this seems like a really specific call out that either this artist hates Cardi B, who is, a C grade musician, not the worst, but certainly not the best. That either this artist hates Cardi B or. Oh my god, wait. No, okay. I was gonna say either this artist hates Cardi B or they just got something too many times from some fan of her. But there's a separate one about Cardi B. So yeah, this person has some beef with Cardi B for. Okay, I'm not that cool with this article that whoever made this list, it's not actually an article. It's, you understand that this is like a humor thing in a sub form of Wikipedia. This is not Wikipedia's main pages. This is like these guide-like, article-like things they allow on the side. Still, whoever wrote this one, why did you mention Cardi B on 2 separate of your 118 comments? So, this person has a weird bias. I'm not even trying to say that to support Cardi B. I listen to a lot of hip-hop music, and she is not on any of my playlists. But you can't approach one of these lists from a hating perspective. This person seems like someone hating on Wikipedia while maintaining many of the flaws that Wikipedia has. Despite, okay, there's a few good jokes in their article. Overall, too pop culture based. If you're going to make your article pop culture based and it's a list based article, don't represent the same pop culture figure on 2 different elements. I mean, I'm just saying that as like a content creator. If you're making a list and you're trying to make it seem versatile, do not reference the same pop culture thing 2 separate times. So, okay. Anyway, we're going to move onward to 2 of the articles I mentioned earlier in this stream. Okay, no, there's a lot of comments here. Let me see what makes sense right here. Somebody's asking if I'm still watching the Alien TV show about the show Earth. Well, you'll see I watch a lot of Earth-based nature shows. I watch the one called Planet Earth. I watch the one called Blue Planet, as well as the sequels to each of those. I watch most David Attenborough documentaries. I love watching some shows with Earth in the name. Now, if you mean the Alien show about Earth, I need to clarify. The aliens have multiple shows about Earth. If anything... Okay, I'm going to wait because this is almost approaching a plot point of one of the fictional novels I want to write someday, and I don't want to approach it too close to cause any spoilers. So, let me just say that aliens could have more than one show about Earth. Now, a lot of other good comments, and thank you for all of your random thoughts, but I cannot respond to all of them right now. We've already done a really long stream, and we're already passing the 2-hour point soon. I need to show at least 2 more articles that I specifically mentioned earlier in this stream. There are at least 2 articles that I was like, we're gonna come back to these later, and now I have to. And those 2 articles, one of them was lawsuits against fiction. What was it called? Lawsuits against... What was the term they used? Lawsuits against, like, godlike or fictional entities or something? What was the term they used? No. There was this one article. Okay, what was this? It was, okay, lawsuits against supernatural beings. That was the article. Okay, we're definitely going to look at this. And we're also going to look at list of animals awarded human credentials. But first, lawsuits against supernatural beings. Let's get all the touching on religion out of the way, because you know how I accidentally do that. I will say again, I don't care what God you believe in. But here we come to the point where, any religion can have consequences. And in this case, one of the consequences is if you believe in a supernatural being, you cannot sue them. You can't have a lawsuit against them. You can do whatever you want with a supernatural being practically, apart from have a legal lawsuit with them. That's not going to work. Who's the court of law going to give you money from? Do you really think you're going to sue God and God is going to be like, oh, dang, the court of Nebraska made me pay out. Okay, here's your money, buddy. Okay, these are actual suits. This guy was a lawyer, filed a suit against God, seeking $100,000. It's like, what do you expect to happen? Do you think the court system is so rigged that they say, you think God offended you, we're going to give you $100,000 of someone else's money, such as like the government's money, or we're going to give you $100,000 out of all the taxes everyone paid, because you think God offended you? Or do you think God is going to somehow pay this out to you? Like, you'd think that anyone who believes in this sort of God would at least believe that the payout from God would be something karma-like, not in terms of money paid through a physical court. How is God going to get that money transferred to the court? So, you have to assume that either they are so insane that they believe that, well, I believe in God, but I also think it's so linked with the real world that the God I believe in is able to pay out money to me, but doesn't want to pay out the money to me until I go through my real world court system. Now, the other option is that this person was just trying to scam the government, because, where else does money come from? Taxes are one places that money gets redistributed. Maybe this person was just trying to get some tax money in their own pockets by suing the government in some form by saying, well, you're on behalf of God now. So, someday I am going to have to share my beliefs about comboism. Yes, believe it or not, I do believe my own form of religion of certain sorts. But don't worry, it will not misalign with what I've taught you. It's not going to be, okay, here I've taught you math and science, and all of a sudden we're skewing toward a weird religious belief. When I tell you about the comboism I believe, it will fit in perfectly with the math and science I've taught you. And so it's going to not have to have some weird paradoxical contradiction in your head where you're like, wait, how is God going to pay out a court? When I tell you about comboism, it'll make sense. Now, we also have many comments that either are believing in God or making fun of God. I'll look through those later. I don't have enough time to analyze the comments and be a funny presenter all the time. So that's why we have to sometimes do breaks where it's like analyze comment time. Now it's funny presenter time. But we don't have that many more minutes. We've been streaming for 2 hours. So I'm going to be funny presenter for the last 10 minutes and we're going to wrap up. I do have to finish the rest of these articles, which here we see other examples of people who have sued God. Now it's just such a funny concept to me, because whether or not you believe in a God, the God, no God, whatever, you would think that if you believe in a God, you would also think that that God was above the power of the court system in modern American U.S. society. However, it turns out there are cases of people who not only believe there's an overseeing God, but believe that God goes through the current Nebraska court system. So, nothing against people who want to love the court system for a way to sue people and try and make money. Nothing against people who believe a God. But they're a little contradictory. There's a little cognitive dissonance if you try and mix those two. Now, going to some more. Okay, we got fictional suits. That's way more boring. Someday we'll read through the real world suits of people who actually tried to sue God. This guy in this time tried to sue Satan. Is it that different to sue an entity from a particular religious text based on your current court system? I would argue it's just as silly to sue Satan or to sue God. I would say those are about equally silly. So, and I'm not even saying that neither Satan nor God exist. Who knows? I am not the overseer on all that. I'm saying that if you believe in God or Satan, you probably should believe that there's something bigger than whatever court system you live in. Okay, so that's enough for that page. Now, before we go to list of animals awarded human awards, I'll note that there was also an article called list of, it was called something that seemed like list of all cats. It was on one of these meta articles. I found one that was, and it was called like list of particular cats or something, or a list of individual cats. Okay, the Wikipedia list of individual cats. Now, first of all, poorly named article. They should call it something like list of cats known famously or something. This is not the list of all individual cats. I got 3 cats. My 3 cats are not on here. Where's Dandelion? Where's Sassafras? Where's Sage? It's not a list of individual cats. This is a list of individual cats who have a certain criteria, which is still a quite interesting page. There are cats who either were so conjoined to some historical figure and they say it's not just that the historical figure had a cat, but that the historical figure mentioned the cat or cared about the cat as some part of the historicalness, or that the cat itself was famous. Now, I care less about the ones who are a cat of a historical figure who happened to shout out their cat. I care more about the cats who were hard-working cats, who made a name for themselves. These cats who fucking sorry to swear, these cats ran the world. You want to see some cats who ran this stuff? You got cats who are... Okay, there's one that I specifically wanted to show. The second most I wanted to show was Unsinkable Sam. Look at Unsinkable Sam. This cat survived the sinking of 3 ships, and he survived these 3 separate ships. The Bismarck, the HMS Cossack, and the HMS Ark Royal. All 3 of those ships sunk. This cat survived them and made it on to live the rest of his life in an indoor home as a good boy. Okay, I can't quote the good boy part. Maybe he scratched or something. I'm assuming he was a good boy because he survived 3 ships and made that onward. I don't even care if he was a good boy. Anyone who adopts that cat should accept that that is a boss cat who is running the world. But you want to know who I think is the most hilarious one when I quickly scrolled this list Where's the one who stole a bunch of stuff? Burglar? Yes, look at this one. There's a cat. You ever heard the term cat burglar? It's a slang term for robbing houses in a certain way. But this was an actual cat burglar. This was a cat that, according to the owners, stole over 600 items from his neighborhood from different houses. He would go into different houses and steal items and bring them back to his family. Now, I get why he did that. He was such a good boy that cats like bringing gifts to their family. They like you can't help it when you're a cat owner. Your cat is once in a while going to bring you a rat or a bird dead. And you're going to have to tell them, no, I don't want that. That's not a gift I appreciate. Let me give you some pet. Throw away the rat. I'll give you some pets. I don't want that style of gift. But it makes sense as being good little cats because they want to help the family. It was food back in the day. They bring you a dead rat and you were starving, you eat it. And so, in the wilderness, I would love if my cat brought me a dead rat to eat. And so from their parents and ancestors, they learned, bringing the dead animals back to the family helps the family eat. So I can't blame my cats when they bring me, gifts. But I do tell them I don't want that style of gift. No more of that. Come on, no more of that style of gift. I don't want no more dead rats. But this cat assumed that animals that were dead were not enough as a gift. This guy assumed I need to bring every single thing out of my neighbor's houses to this family. Look at this. 16 car mitts, 7 sponges, 213 dish towels, 7 washcloths, 5 towels, 18 shoes, 73 socks, 100 gloves. And that's just like a third of the list. Now, the funny thing to me is that the owners kind of claim that it took them a while to realize, something's off about this. And it's like, how did you not realize 300 items into this 600 items that something was a little off, that you have 500 gloves that did not belong to you, that you have 100 dish towels that don't belong to you? I'm thinking that the owners of this cat may have omitted an item from this list that the cat actually also brought back. I think the item they omitted was 10 wallets. I think the cat was bringing them something they wanted because it took them a while to admit that the cat was stealing all the stuff. I think they were in on this. I think we should be seeing a bunch of wallets on this list, but the owners tucked those away. Now, in any case, this cat is a boss. I don't care if this cat is breaking societal rules. This cat is a freaking boss. Now, we do have to look at our final article for today, which is the list of animals awarded human credentials. And I do have to note, an important thing about this article is that it does not include companies or institutions that as a joke gave an animal a credential. Obviously some college or some political institution or whatever company could say, we elected a cat as the thing. Ha ha, look at us. Buy our product. Look at us. We want press. But no. Wikipedia is usually smarter than that, so they have decided to not include those and only include times where, not as an intentional joke, a human credential was awarded to an animal. Now, why would this happen? Well, at least one of the cases is because they give out really cheap, terrible, real diplomas, credentials, and various things from a lot of institutions, including colleges. There are a lot of colleges you could go to and get some fake degree. Here's the thing, I've already told you folks, I've learned most of my knowledge from books and personal investigations, and I only took about 2 years of college, maybe 2.5. And I'm not going to pretend I got a degree, and if I wanted to impress you all by having a degree, I could be one of these cats. I could get a fake degree somehow or another, because there are literal cats who have gotten degrees. So this to me is a good example of how a degree in the right sense should represent, oh, I learned a lot from that institution. If you want a degree just as a proof of something, well, if it's helping you get a job in our modern society, you do you. Go ahead, boss. Get your credential just to get that job in our tricky modern society. But if you think a degree says anything about your self-worth, well, it entirely depends on how much you actually learned from the institution that gave you the degree. Because there are, as we see from this list, institutions that will give degrees such as diplomas and other awards to people so easily that someone can trick the system and make an animal get the award, a non-human animal. Remember, humans are animals, but to make a non-human animal get the award. Here we got Colby Nolan. Colby Nolan was a house cat who got an MBA, that is a Master of Business Administration, by Trinity Southern University, which, as they note here, is a term they call a diploma mill, which is the name for certain institutions like colleges that will just mill out as if they were a paper factory, diploma, 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 and give them to whoever pays them. And this is one of the problems with society, is that maybe I would have taken 4 years of college if it wouldn't have put me $100,000 in debt to go to a college that I would have gotten accepted to and wanted to learn from. The 2.5 years I did in college, I paid almost no money because I did community colleges. I got accepted to fancy colleges. I got accepted to UC universities in California. I did not accept them because I did not want to end up paying $100,000 over 4 years to get some diploma that, for all I know, a cat might have been able to get. Now, they would not have called those institutions diploma mills, but the fact that anything called a university can award a cat an award of this sort that says it's a Master of Business Administration degree, that many jobs are like, oh, you don't have that? Well, you're not allowed to work here. Okay, so you mean I'm not a cat with a lot of money? Well, the fact of a lot of those things relates to the factor that I personally decided to turn down the fancy colleges I got into. I did not go to the UC colleges that I was accepted by. I took 2.5 years at community colleges, and then I was like, you know what? It's still going to cost me many $1,000s if I wanted to do my transfer to a fancier college for the next 2 years of college. Why am I going to do that if a cat can learn that? And I would rather create a life for myself where I'm teaching hundreds of people as opposed to, sitting here and pretending that I only am supposed to read important books or important articles if they're in my curriculum. No. I'm going to read books and articles all day, and I'm going to create a job for myself that I can turn my desire to read books and articles all day into helping others, and here we go. We're on our way. So, This is a boss cat. These are some boss animals. Let's give applause to all these animals who got the diplomas. Even if it was more of a scheme from the people who owned the animal, just to prove that the institution was what we could call something along the lines of a diploma mill. These cats are bosses. They went along for the ride. They either were really, really smart, or they were really good at following their owner's directives to prove that a college was fake. So either these cats were geniuses or they were really good at loving their owners. And either way, those are geniuses. My cats are geniuses in a variety of ways. I got a stray cat who's street smart. He knows how to hold his own however he wants, but trust me, he's a love boy when it comes down to it. He wants his pets. And then you got my little sage boo who is perfect and intelligent and knows how to just work his way around the world so smartly. You got my dandosaur who is more street smart. Dandelion is more of a love, I call him love smart. It makes more sense than street smart. He's really good at getting his goal, which is having you cuddle him and pet him. And that's his only goal. He's not even a normal cat. Doesn't care about fancy food, does not care about anything except getting cuddled and his belly rubbed. And he is really good at getting his goal. So sometimes people act like Dandelion's dumb because he doesn't care about his food or he's clumsy or whatever. But I say, that boy has a goal and he gets his goal. So how are we not going to call that smart? If his goal is to get his belly rubbed and he gets it nonstop, he is smart. He is achieving his goal. Now, anyway, we got more cats. We got a Henrietta who, despite being dead for a year, posthumously got an award from somewhere. We got George, who George the cat had a hypnotherapist degree. Sounds like a pseudoscience, but a pseudoscientific cat better than a pseudoscientific human. So the owner made a fake certificate to show probably that hypnotherapist degrees are given out in a false, non-scientific way, that he got one of those for his cat. That's okay. Should that be one of our goals for another grade someday? Should we get Dandelion a degree? We're only going to do it if Dandelion wants to, and if it successfully scams an industry that was already scamming others. If those two are true, maybe we'll get Dandelion, my cat, a degree someday. Okay, this one got a high school diploma from a college or from a high school that apparently just handed out the diplomas. This one, I just love how many this is why I love Wikipedia articles like this. Now, we gotta wrap up. It's getting real. Oh my god, it's midnight. I really have to wrap up. I'm probably bothering the neighbors. Sorry, neighbors. We got dogs as well. And all sorts of animals that have these hilarious ones. These are how I found that weird klepto cat was when you see the see also section. Like, I saw a list of individual cats, and I'm like, that's inaccurate. It probably doesn't contain dandelions, so it's probably not all the individual cats. But when I clicked it, I found all those ones like that kleptomaniac cat. Okay. I think that should be enough for today. It is past midnight where I'm at. I'm going to be filming tomorrow, and I'm going to be filming tomorrow the last moments of a really important combo class episode that I already have most of it edited. So when I filter in the last bits I have to film tomorrow, I hope to have it out tomorrow night or Sunday. and it's going to be the longest edited project I've ever made. So make sure you're also tuned into my Combo Class channel, the one not called Demotro from Combo Class, but the one just called Combo Class. That channel where I put my longer episodes. The next one coming out within the next couple days, hopefully, is going to be my longest episode yet, contain some personal proofs about mathematics, and just hopefully be a fun episode. So make sure you're tuned into that, and make sure you're willing to spend some time learning rare things, whether it's with me or without me. We will come back to this again because I had so much fun on this stream that we are definitely going to do another one called like deeper down the unusual Wikipedia rabbit hole, or called like Wikipedia unusual articles number 2 or something like that, because there are plenty to go around. We were only able to cover so many in 2.5 hours. So, love you all. I really should wrap up, and I'm not really doing that for the sake of me wanting to end, but more so that it's past midnight and I don't want to be a really bad neighbor. So, let me shut up and leave you all to rest. Leave all my neighbors to rest. Make sure you're tuned in to the Combo Class channel for that really long episode coming. And on this channel, I do have some more bonus videos and shorts planned for the near future as well. So, I love you all. I'll see you again in the next one.